Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo's meeting. Now would be a great time for those of you that have Facebook to check into Facebook. Let them know that you're attending our meeting here at the Toledo Lucas County Library. And once you've done that, I'd urge you to either turn your phone off or turn it to mute. I'd like to ask Father Oshesky to come to the podium to deliver the reflection, and Nina Corder to come up and deliver the pledge.
It's good to begin our program today with a prayer because the topic is what's on Tom Walton's mind, and only God knows what's on Tom's mind. So we begin. Almighty and all-powerful God, as we bow our heads to you in prayer today, we are aware of all the blessings you have bestowed on each of us, and we give you heartfelt thanks. Compared to so many others, we are so fortunate. We are also aware of so many in our world, in our country, who are struggling financially, in poor physical or mental health, victims of abuse and discrimination, victims of war and violence, victims of neglect and loneliness. And so as we thank you for the blessings given to us, we commend to your care all those in need. Inspire and help all of us, and all who are blessed as we are, to reach out in love and charity to those who are suffering. May they always know that you are with them, and through us, may their burdens be lightened. As Rotarians, we are called to service above self. May we be faithful in service to our sisters and brothers. To our prayer we say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Father O and Nina. As we begin our meeting, I'd like to acknowledge our sponsor for this month, Browning Kuzno, and our Rotary member, Brent Kuzno. Thank you very much, Brent. Does anyone have any guests with them today? And if you do, please bring them up to the floor mic to introduce them.
Good afternoon, Rotarian. My name is Nina Corder. With me today, President Cindy, I do have my intern from Women of Toledo, Farah Al-Nahim, first generation from Egyptian, and she is heading to graduate school in Chicago for urban planning. Thank you.
Hi, President Cindy. I have a guest, Corey Wolin. He is the Executive Director of So All May Eat.
Oh, great. Welcome, Farah and Corey. Thank you for joining us today. Are there any visiting Rotarians in the room? Nope, okay. At this time, I'd like to ask Sierra Hutton to come to the microphone. Sierra is the Vice Chair of the Membership Committee, and she's going to let us know about a couple of great events we have coming up.
Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. Everyone, can we pump it up just a little bit? We're so excited. It's another beautiful day. It's not raining. Anyways, you guys, I am pumped to tell you that this Wednesday we have our second Women in Rotary event. Yes, that means that no men are allowed. I know. Rotary, it's hard. I know. It'll be okay, I promise. But we're going to be at Urban Pine Winery in Maumee this Wednesday at 4:30 to 6:30. Maria White is hosting us. It's going to be really fun. Please RSVP to Jackie today if you can make it, so we know that we have plenty of food and wine for everyone, okay? Next up is our Sandpiper event. So Saturday, August 13th at 7 p.m., we're going to have a sunset cruise. If you have not yet bought your tickets, please do so we make sure that we have enough food and drinks for everyone. And I think that's all I have. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you, Sierra. Today we have the privilege of introducing two new members to our club. The first one up will be Nina Corder, who will join us here at the podium, along with her sponsors, Chuck Stocking and Brent Kuzno.
Thank you, President Cindy. And my fellow Rotarians, it's a pleasure to introduce Nina Corder as a new member of our club. Nina is originally from Malaysia, but has resided in Toledo for the past 25 years. She is the founding member and managing director of a women-focused nonprofit. Many of you heard her speak in the last couple months here. The organization known as Women of Toledo. Established in 2013, the organization has become a hub where a diverse group of women leaders is committed to advocating for diversity, inclusion, and belonging with a focus on women's economic empowerment. In 2016, Nina joined and served as a member of the White House Council on Women and Girls under the Obama administration and began her work representing District 9 Ohio delegates lobbying for Title IX on Capitol Hill. And then in 2017, Nina was appointed by the UN for their Empowerment Women Initiative as a global champion for change. During her tenure with UN Women, Nina launched she just keeps going, the Women Economic Empowerment Movement in Northwest Ohio, and developed a new initiative called Her Hub. Appointed by Mayor Kapsakavich in 2020, Nina is currently serving as an executive member of the City of Toledo's Human Relations Commission, which I've heard a lot of good things about. Prior to her managing Women of Toledo, Nina served as program director for Pay It Forward Foundation and project manager for the Toledo Metropolitan Council of Governments. And now Chuck's going to continue on.
This is the other side of the story. This is a really great story. I think we're so fortunate. Nina earned both her master's and bachelor's degree from the University of Toledo and completed her postdoctoral in education in organizational leadership with a concentration in culture and diversity with North Central University. Her many award accomplishments notably include the 2021 Toledo Jefferson Award. That is really spectacular. Also known as the American Nobel Prize for Public Service. The 2021 Ernest M. Pon Award by the National Association of Ethnic Studies, and the 2016 award for the Power of Women for the Junior League of Toledo. This fall, Nina will be taking a sabbatical from Women of Toledo to complete a 2022 Professional Fellows Program by the U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, Global Leaders Division. That's a mouthful. The Pro Fellows program is a two-way exchange involving professionals from selected European countries and mentors from the United States to build connections and promote collaboration. She'll be working on economic empowerment and serve as a mentor for groups in Hungary, Romania, and Albania. Nina plans to attend Rotary in Budapest, so we should be sure she gets a flag if we still have flags. I don't know if we still do that or not, but Nina lives in West Toledo with her husband Casey and their daughter Isabella, who is pursuing her undergraduate degree at Miami University in Oxford. When you think about Rotary's theme this year, imagine with a background like this what Nina can do for Toledo Rotary and Toledo, and we're so grateful to welcome her. So please join me in welcoming her to the Fellowship of Toledo Rotary.
That was a great presentation and introduction, and welcome, Nina. Next up, we have Alec Falkenberg, and today introducing him is Adam Cassie. His other sponsor, Tony Washington, was here, but he had a small injury on the way and had to exit.
Tony did make it. It was dedication. He showed up, but I told him he needed to take care of his injury. So I am excited to welcome Alec. So Alec and I met in Toastmasters. And if you know anything about Toastmasters, ums and uhs and so's get you in trouble. So I will try to avoid any more of those as I introduce him. Through my time at Toastmasters with Alec, I learned a few things as he did speeches, and I learned that he's very dedicated to growth. He was there to grow his confidence, speaking in front of others, grow his social and professional networks, and I've also learned that he is dedicated to growing his health. That's spiritually, emotionally, physically. He's run a few marathons recently. I did one. I did an Darn it. Right. This growth helps him in his career as a financial advisor. I hope he pays particular attention to my assets, as I don't do a very good job at that. And I really do believe that he embodies the idea of service above self. I'm excited to see what he does here at Rotary as he continues to grow his network socially and professionally, but also grow his impact on our community. So everybody welcome Alec Falkenberg.
Welcome, Alec. I hope that you and Nina will get involved and try to get into a committee and reach out to all of us in leadership as you make your way through Rotary. On your tables, you might see a little piece of paper, and that is for anyone who has not yet signed up for their committees. As last week I mentioned the theme Imagine, and we went through all of the letters. The bottom one, I'm starting in the back, I hope that doesn't really say anything about how the year is going to go, but the bottom one is E, and that is for engaged members. And two of the ways that we can do that, just from what we talked about today, is one, making sure that you're signed up for a committee. So with that piece of paper, if you haven't, check what you want. You can either leave it on the table or you can hand it to Jackie on the way out. And two is to attend the social events that Sierra mentioned to us so that you can be engaged and we can kind of move forward, because we were talking about people showing up and doing their part with Rotary in order to make this the year that we imagine it to be. With that said, I'd like to ask Chuck Mann to come up and present or introduce our speaker today, Tom Walton.
Oh, I've looked forward to this for a long, long time. Thank you, President Cindy. When I was asked to introduce my Rotarian friend and Itzabal writing partner, Tom Walton, I considered a few opening lines like, fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce a man blessed with an abundance of charm, talent, and wit. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, so instead, and now I'd like to introduce a man who's seen it all, but has understood very little of it. Tom was nervous when I told him he was speaking to us today. He said, "What if they boo me?" I said, "Don't be silly. People can't boo and yawn at the same time." Almost half done. Throughout his many years, Tom has always taken the road less traveled. Some say it's because he's independent, creative, and adventurous. His wife Judy says it's because he's never asked for directions. Tom was concerned that today's personal appearance could be interpreted as a crass attempt to promote his new book, Life as We Know It, Some Assembly Required. Let me assure you all that his book, Life as We Know It, Some Assembly Required, available now at Barnes & Noble and Amazon, is in no way being promoted today. Well, I could stand up here for an hour and talk about our speaker's accomplishments, but only if I talked really, really slow. Fellow Rotarians, a man who wears his heart on his sleeve and spaghetti sauce on his tie, the funniest man I know, Tom Walton.
Thank you, Chuck. And I knew it was a mistake asking Chuck to introduce me. We know each other too well. Well, thank you, fellow Rotarians. And before we get into this, I need to take care of a housekeeping item. President Cindy, can I get reimbursed for my gasoline? Hey, it was worth a shot. Chuck is my buddy, so I don't think he will mind if I share this. Recently, I asked Chuck if he had things on his bucket list he still wanted to accomplish. He said, "You know, Tom, I've always wanted to fly to the sun." I said, "Chuck, you can't fly to the sun, you'll burn up." He said, "No problem, we'll go at night." A few weeks ago, when it was proposed to me that we do this, it was also suggested that the topic for my presentation should simply be, what is going on in the mind of Tom Walton? And the first time I heard that, I thought, wow, this is going to be a short meeting. I always feel some tension when I get up to speak in front of a group as distinguished as this. Right now, I'm wrapped tighter than an airport sandwich. And I feel like the last lobster in the tank, and the waiter is rolling up his sleeve. Apparently, the real reason I'm here is that the club took note of my new book, which Chuck was kind enough to mention and which I should not. But Life as We Know It, Some Assembly Required. It was a joint venture with the Blade. And as Tom Edison once observed about the process of invention, it was 2% inspiration and 98% perspiration. But it is finished now, and I'm proud of it. I was asked to share how the book came to be and what guided the decision-making about the content. One factor was the frequent question I get asked a lot by Blade readers of the Sunday column. They tell me that what I write doesn't really fit the mold of op-ed columns. And I tell them, you're exactly right. Not to denigrate the work of my colleagues, Keith Burris, David Shribman, are profound thinkers and excellent writers. And the Sunday op-ed page in the Blade is better because they are there. So yeah, what I do does not fit that mold. What I attempt to do is use humor to make a serious point. And it occurred to me it would be fun to assemble a book with that intention. At my age, I felt the timing was right. So for the flyleaf page in the book, I borrowed a quote from Ernest Hemingway. To write about life, first you must live it. And with that sentiment in mind to guide me, I had about 350 columns to choose from. And the 70 that I picked are there because I liked them best, or Blade readers liked them best. So let me share with you some of the stuff that made the cut and made it into the book. What follows are excerpts, everything you're about to hear are excerpts or paraphrased thoughts from the book. An example. During Donald Trump's presidency, I took both political parties to task for what I considered poorly crafted slogans and catchphrases. The headline on that piece was, "Before you rant, work on the chant." I tried to help both parties out by offering them a few slogans of my own. And here are a few I thought would have made great signs at a rally. Mr. Trump has his own loose cannon, part Ms. Conway, part Steve Bannon. Build the wall and make it stout and kick all those illegals out. Here's one with renewed relevance, fortunately or unfortunately. Now the left is so dismayed. No more Roe, no more Wade. And finally this one, it's not witchcraft, it's not voodoo. Trump's just doing what he said he'd do. Now I know I'm getting older, but I don't worry about it. A lot of good things come with age. For example, I've learned with age that I will never go skiing again, because I have discovered that when I fall, I no longer bounce right up. Besides, I just don't get the point of skiing, okay? Skiing is a sport where your only goal is to make it through the day without dying. If you think about it, say you trip while playing tennis and you break your leg is going to eventually heal. But accidentally zoom off a mountain at 60 miles an hour on skis, and the thrill of human flight soon gives way to a painful reality. That whole life policy was a good investment. I remember my ski instructor telling me the best way to stop is to snowplow your skis. Snowplow. The only snowplow I saw all day was the one that dug me out at the bottom of the mountain. Why funeral homes don't offer pre-planning services in ski lodges is beyond me. And as long as we're talking about sports, I don't get golf either. It's a 7,000-yard survival test. Legend has it, the game was invented by the Scots, which, if true, confirms that the devil's name is McGregor. I've decided that playing golf badly is the best exercise you can get, because you're going to visit a lot of sand, a lot of water, and a lot of forest. Now, you play golf, for those of you who don't, I have to explain, you play golf with a series of numbered sticks. That the stick that supposedly hits the ball the farthest is called a driver. It is huge. It has a head on it the size of Sylvania. Even so, mine somehow misses the ball completely, frequently. For me, hitting the perfect tee shot in golf is golf's equivalent of throwing a dart at the moon and hitting an abandoned lunar rover. As you stand at the tee, up ahead in the distance is your target, a hole measuring just 4¼ inches across. And jutting upward from that hole is the flagstick. It is 1/4 mile away. The flag flaps in the wind, taunting you, reminding you that God is great and you are small. Now, one of your sticks is called a wedgie or something like that. And you grab it when you find yourself in a tight spot. Now, sometimes it's called a sand wedgie, which sounds awful and is. Keep in mind that if you play golf, you are required to wear pants that look like they were stitched together at Joann Fabrics on prank day. But if fellowship with other tortured souls for 4 hours and 4 miles is your idea of fun, knock yourself out. And if you decide to play golf for money, be consoled by these words from golf pro Fuzzy Zeller. Every shot makes somebody happy. Okay, we have another football season rapidly approaching, so we need to brush up on the basics there as well. Football is a game played by 11 players to a side, each of them clad in a well-padded suit of armor, and each of them wearing a bucket on his head. They all run around chaotically, trying to knock each other down. This would explain why football is popular in Canada. Even though it's an American sport, it's like hockey without the skates, eh? Now, the largest of these football players are called linemen. They eat pretty much anything placed in front of them. Old shoes, tree stumps, discarded tires. Now, their job is to protect the quarterback, who is always the best-looking player on the team, isn't he? His teeth are perfectly aligned. They gleam in the sun, unlike the teeth of the linemen, which have generally been misplaced. And the trophy they prize is called the football. Was this thing designed by a committee? I mean, it's fat in the middle. It comes to a point on both ends. And when it bounces, nobody has a clue which way it's going to go. This seems unnecessarily cruel to me. Now, there are 3 ways to score with the football. 1, by carrying the football across the goal line. 2, by throwing the football to a teammate across the goal line. And 3, by kicking the football through a giant yellow tuning fork. Now, football players, by the way, like many athletes, love to adorn their bodies with tattoos. Why, I wondered, would they want to mess up the beautiful canvas God gave them? I have a very low tolerance for pain myself, so it is unlikely I would ever get a tattoo. But if I do, I know what it will say, .com. Except then that rather than spell out the D-O-T, it'll be an actual dot. That way, if it hurts too much, I can stop the guy right there. Now, what about health care? That's a good subject for the op-ed page, right? As a nation, we have become obsessed with something called wellness. Now that I entrust my health, not only to my doctor, but to Medicare, I am required to visit the doctor's office periodically for something called a wellness check. It takes about 45 seconds, and it goes something like this. The nurse says, "Mr. Walton, are you well?" Me, "As far as I know." Nurse, "Are you depressed?" Me, "No." Nurse, "Have you had suicidal thoughts?" Me, "You know, I hadn't thought of it until just this moment." Satisfied that I'm only joking, she releases me back to the wild. That's another thing about getting older. As we age, we're treated differently. Assuming our ears still work, and in my case that's an open issue, we senior citizens often hear patronizing and condescending comments, frequently in restaurants. "Can I get you anything else, honey? Do you need a receipt, sweetie? I'll clean that up for you, darling." Yes, I seem to have a girlfriend at every Bob Evans in town. Now, the pandemic has provided us all sorts of opportunities for an op-ed columnist. After all, 2020 gave us a lot to drink about. For example, I noticed that the greeting card industry was slow to react to the pandemic. How do you say happy birthday to somebody who's locked away in quarantine? So I offered the folks at Hallmark a few ideas for greeting cards. This one was for a pandemic birthday. "You're one of a kind. You've broken the mold. But stay home on your birthday if you want to grow old." There was this one for an anniversary. "You two are my heroes. Your marriage..." I'll wait while we answer the call. That's okay.
It means you're going too fast.
They need you at the store, Walt. This one's for an anniversary. "You two are my heroes, your marriage divine. But sneeze on me now and you're no friends of mine." Here's one for Thanksgiving pandemic. "Thanksgiving's the time when we bring family close. But stay 6 feet apart or we all could be toast." And finally, a pandemic Christmas card. "It's that time of year when life's so worth living. But this doggone pandemic is the gift that keeps giving." Now, speaking of Christmas, you may recall the controversy about 5 years ago that erupted about a song that we all know very well, Baby It's Cold Outside, and controversy erupted about the lyrics in the song. The song seemed to suggest that a man and a woman who were not married were contemplating spending the night together because of the inclement weather outside. Some radio stations actually pulled the song from the air. Well, that got me to thinking, and that's never a good sign. I thought of other Christmas carols that the lyrics police might want to take a look at. How about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Consider how badly the other reindeer treated poor Rudolph. They laughed at him. They called him names. They excluded him from their reindeer games. Shame on you, Donder. You should be embarrassed, Blitzen. Cupid, I thought you were all about love. You're all bullies, that's what you are. Now, another national issue on the op-ed pages these days is obesity. So how do we justify letting our children listen to Frosty the Snowman? Here's a guy who clearly has let himself go. Plus, he smokes. And at the first hint of warm weather, he dies. Is this a message we want to send to our children? And what about another old Christmas favorite? I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus. I never saw my mommy kissing Santa Claus, but if I had, I would have run straight to the bedroom to wake up Dad and let him know we have a problem. Yes, my friends, Christmas carols are tearing away at all we hold dear as a society. Consider Winter Wonderland. Once again, we are confronted with a couple who are obviously up to no good. They even plan to conspire by the fire. Because conspiracies are never good. Okay, that song's got to go. And here's another. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. So what is the fondest wish of Barney and Ben? A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots. Swell. And finally, Santa Claus is coming to town. I have no problem telling rebellious little ones that they better not cry and they'd better not pout, because we all know, especially the grandfathers and grandmothers here, a little bit of that goes a long way. But there's a line in that song we should all be up in arms about. He sees you when you're sleeping. Really? He sees you when you're sleeping? What? Where is he hiding? In the closet? Under the bed? We have got to do something about those lyrics. Santa is better than that. Well, isn't all of that a little ridiculous, taking political correctness to the extreme? Do you see what I mean about using humor to try to make a serious point? Once in a while, I'll do a piece that doesn't have a serious point to make. I'm just trying to poke a little fun. Two of my very favorite columns had to do with Rotary. In the 1980s, I was program chairman of the Rotary Club of Monterey, California. Some of you are thinking, why are you in Toledo, Ohio, you dummy? Anyway, we invited the chairman of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors, and that's the equivalent of our Lucas County Commissioners. We invited the chairman of the supervisors to come speak to the club. He was a young guy who had gotten a little full of himself as an elected official and frequently disagreed with our editorial positions at the Monterey Peninsula Herald. Though he and I were about the same age and pleasant with each other, in fact, we lived on the same street, it's safe to say he was not on good terms with the newspaper. So this was my introduction. Today we are pleased to have Supervisor Moore as our speaker. I did a little research on Mr. Moore and discovered that he and I have a lot in common. We both live in Delray Oaks. We both have been told we are too young for the jobs we have. We both have mustaches that occasionally rage out of control. And neither of us has ever been endorsed for public office by the Herald. I think he learned his lesson. Don't pick a fight with a guy that buys ink in 55-gallon drums. However, my favorite Rotary program memory was the day I introduced the United States Deputy Undersecretary of Commerce, a woman, as our speaker. Now, keep in mind that in those days, in the mid-1980s, Rotary, like a lot of service clubs, was principally a men's business club. We hadn't wised up yet. So you'd expect that our guest, a woman, would be, even so, given her title, she'd be preaching to the choir, right? She began benignly enough, offering a few harmless comments about the economy. Slowly, her tone and her demeanor began to change. She launched a litany of complaints about America's small businesses, suggesting they cared only about profits and the bottom line, and not about their communities. Where, she asked, is your collective civic conscience? Her business talk had turned into a harangue. The Rotarians were not amused. The air went out of the room as she delivered one shot after another. Anger was building. Faces were turning red. Guys began shouting at her. I expected heavy objects to start flying at her at any second. She turned to me for help, and I joined her at the microphone. Gentlemen, I said, I'd like you to meet Maribel Boone, a frequent performer at the First Theater of California here in Monterey. She comes in peace. I had written her speech for her, and she delivered it like the pro she was. Fortunately, the club was so relieved that it was all a joke. Nobody was harmed. What a great day that was. I did a piece a few years ago with the headline, The Real Housewives of Ottawa Hills. I noted in the piece that every housewife in Ottawa Hills has a boyfriend, and his name is Louis Vuitton. Now, we talked about Christmas, and I have one more point to make about that. I also try to have fun at Christmas time, at the expense of people who send us those holiday letters that brag and maybe even stretch the truth a little bit about the accomplishments of theirs and their kids and grandchildren. For those folks, it's always a fabulous year and everything always goes right. So I began writing my Christmas column as a holiday letter from a couple for whom nothing ever goes right. I gave them names, Harriet and Harvey Fizzblister. Now, in fact, if it weren't for bad luck, the Fizzblisters would have no luck at all. Last summer, the Flies pitched in to get their screen door fixed. Is this on? People ask me, why those names? Why Fizzblister? I wanted to minimize the risk of a lawsuit, that's why. And so far, it is a strategy that has worked. Now, either there's no couple in this country named Harriet and Harvey Fizzblister, or they're too embarrassed to come forward and sue. Finally, I mentioned when we began that public speaking can be a nerve-wracking experience, and I've done a fair amount of it over the years. On one occasion, a hotel's Muzak sound system, you know, that elevator music, burst to life right in the middle of my talk. It was playing, I'm going to wash that man right out of my hair, from South Pacific. Yes, seriously. Got a huge laugh at my expense, as it did again today. And I've had to deal on occasion with a heckler. Not that anybody in this group would do that, but I was invited several years ago to be the dinner speaker for a local businessmen's club. Now, unfortunately, my talk followed a lengthy cocktail hour during which adult beverages flowed freely. One gentleman who was obviously on a first-name basis with Jim Beam, began heckling me with nasty comments almost the moment I began speaking. And now, it would have been fun to engage in a battle of wits with an unarmed man, but I did not. He was a subscriber, so I took the high road and I moved on. I once searched online for advice on what motivates a heckler, and I swear the first article that popped up on my computer screen was called "How to Hang a Speaker from the Ceiling." That's a bit harsh, don't you think? I mean, okay, now if you were ever asked to do this, to be a speaker, keep in mind that the speaker's presentation is usually the last thing on the program. So you'd better be either funny or brief. And fortunately, fellow Rotarians, I can be brief. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom, for entertaining us today. Does anybody have any questions for Tom? If you do, please come up to the floor mic. Nope. Okay. Oh, we got one.
So I heard a rumor. I'm Mark, by the way. Nice to meet you. You know my mom, actually. I think you. There's a rumor that you're a local guy. Maybe you went to Clay High School. Is that right? That's right. And you were editor maybe of your high school newspaper or something?
You gotta tell me where this is going.
Well, I'm just reeling you in right now. That's correct, right? That's right. So could you, and my mom was on that with you, but I don't have her last name. I'm not going to tell you. So, but
You don't know your mother's last name?
No, you don't. And her dad was a teacher there, by the way, so that might help you. And the Oregon Rec Center is named after him, as a matter of fact. But can you tell us, like, what led you into that field and maybe something kind of fun that happened back in those days? If not, I could help you, but no.
Well, back when I was in junior high school, actually, and I was trying to decide what to do with my life, and my science teacher came to me one day and handed me my test. This was a test in chemistry class. And he took one look at my answers and he said, "Son, I'm not sure a career in chemistry is right for you. Have you considered journalism?" Didn't even know what that was at the time, but I looked into it and I found that I enjoyed writing. And when I got to Clay High School, I was on the staff of the paper, The Eagle, and enjoyed that very much and ended up making that a major in college along with political science, and one thing led to another, and that's how it all started. And I almost got suspended one time from Clay because I wrote an editorial in The Eagle. You asked me for an embarrassing moment. There was a wave of people bringing squirt guns into the school. Keep in mind, this is long before all of our current issues. This was just harmless fun, the kids thought. Well, the principal didn't think it was harmless fun and didn't care for that it was publicized in any way. So I had to talk my way out of that one. Ended up dating his daughter for a time, so that helped. Yeah. Or not.
Anyone else?
How long were you in Monterey? And did you enjoy that experience?
How long was I in Monterey? Not nearly long enough. I was in Monterey from 1975 to 1989. My mayor was Clint Eastwood for about 4 years. And it was just a fabulous experience. If you've never been there, it's one of the most beautiful parts of the world. And when it was time, when my predecessor, a gentleman some of you may remember, Bernard Judy, retired, the Block family suggested we got a guy out in Monterey who might be a good replacement. I don't know that anybody replaces Bernie Judy, but I said I would try. And that's the only job I would have come back for because I loved living there. and I try to go back as often as I can.
Hey, Reyes Chaudhry. First of all, I enjoyed your talk. I read your column on obesity, especially overeating during the pandemic. And what did you learn from it? Do you still eat randomly or frequently, or did it change your behavior? That's one. And second part is, to observe these things in life, do you feel cynical, or sometimes you just think nothing? I mean, you have to be cynical to get a joke. That's what, I mean, and it's, I've got a real-time joke I can tell later, but it's a real-life joke.
Well, oddly enough, since the book came out, I have been doing a lot of things like this. I enjoy it. It's fun for me, and people seem to be interested in it, and for that I'm very grateful. And so, yeah, in fact, I've got, I think, 3 more of these in September. There's a club that meets at the Toledo Club, and they were asking the same, to do something of that same nature. And so.
And he wanted to know if you're cynical. Is that
Cynical.
where your humor comes from?
Cynicism, I guess you got to have a certain cynical attitude, but I rather than, this is why I try to inject humor, because I would rather look for the positive than the negative. And this is a guy who wrote editorials for almost his entire career, where unfortunately, if we hold a mirror up to society and write about what we see, it has to be negative sometimes. But I like to have if we were expressing a negative viewpoint, I'd like to end on a positive note, because I think you have to. That's our best hope. So.
I just want to say that when I was younger, I had a patient who was 95, about 25 years ago. He came to my office all dressed up with a hat, and when he came in, he was sitting very elegantly, and I asked, "Harry, how are you?" He won't respond. Then I raised my voice, "Harry, how are you?" And he still won't respond. Then at the top of my voice, I said, "Harry, how are you?" He said, "How do you feel?" He said, "I feel like an old man." So I spent all that energy, and that's what he said.
I can relate with Harry, actually.
Well, that was great. We wish you well in the sales of your book, Tom. I hope that goes well for you. And to thank you for coming out today, we'd like to give you the book, Historical Tales of Toledo, written by our very own Clint Mock. And we also will be making a donation to Polio Plus Fund in your name.
That's wonderful. Thank you
So
so much.
thank you so much. Okay, next week, we will be going to the Glass City Pavilion over at the new Metro Parks on the other side of the bridge. And if you have not done so, we need to RSVP for this meeting. You should be able to find an option to RSVP in the Spoke, or you can go out to the website. Speaking will be Dave Zank from the Metro Parks to give us an update on all the great things we have going on over there in the park, and then the different walkways they're putting in along the river on both sides.
He insisted on working, and he'll come year after year for a checkup. And I said, "Ruiz, what do you do?" He said, "I'm a watchman downtown Toledo." And one day he came to me and he says, "Doc, I got fired." I said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, the people came to steal, and they were chatting with me, and they wanted the keys." I said, "Okay, you can take the keys." So he gave them the keys to the robbers, and that's the reason he was fired.
We got to give a clap. Okay, today we have one meeting. It'll be here in the glass room. It is the program committee, so we will meet over on this side of the room, and if everyone could kind of exit fairly quickly, that would be super, so we could get started right away. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.